Recently, I asked you guys on Facebook for your questions. I'll be discussing why your dog goes bonkers when you leave the house and try and teach them, why it's counterproductive to be your dog's pack leader, and I'll be giving you some potty training advice. Oh yeah, and I'm also taking a puppy biting question. Give me a big thumbs up, like me on Facebook, and who knows, maybe I'll answer your question next time. She is alive, I promise. She just doesn't move. Being transparent with all of you has always been extremely important to me, and I know I've told you guys about PetFlow's automatic pet food delivery service and how awesome it is. In the interest of full disclosure, I want to kind of let you know how our arrangement works and why it's beneficial for you to consider getting your pet food from petflow.com/ZachGeorge rather than the way you currently get it. Essentially, PetFlow contributes 10% of all sales that are made through petflow.com/ZachGeorge right back to our production so that I can continue to make you great videos. And this, in combination with our crowdfunding efforts on Patreon, have really helped a lot. You can go on to PetFlow and buy your dog's food just one time if you'd like. Enter code ZachGeorge15 when you check out, and you'll get 15% off of that order. Now, if you are ready to sign up for automatic pet food delivery, just enter code ZACH20 when you check out, and you can receive 20% off of your first order. Oh gosh, okay. Okay, you ready to get down? All right, there you go. Good girl. Now this one comes from Carrie. Carrie says, Zach, we've done well with your puppy training videos, but there's one major thing that I can't seem to get. My 14-month-old lab is a gem at home, work, and the park, but take her anywhere new and she goes bonkers. Great question. I think a lot of you really are experiencing that with your own dogs, especially around that age. I mean, 1 year is when they start to really get smart, start to understand what you want. You're really starting to click with your dog a lot, but still, working with them in new, distracting, exciting places is problematic for many of you. I'm gonna help you with that though. The most significant thing you can do to complicate training sessions or to make them more challenging for your dog is to train in distracting situations that they're not used to being in. This is by far the fastest way to throw your dog off and confuse them. But that's okay, it doesn't mean we can't work through it, but you need to kind of take a different strategy when doing this. Of course, this catches many of us off guard because our dog will sit, lie down, stay, come, and do all of that in the comfort of our own home, but then we go to another place and they're much less likely to listen to us. So really this comes down to the more used to being in a place your dog is, the more likely they are to listen to you, which might explain why your dog is much more cooperative at the park or at your work. And lucky you, you get to take your dog to work. This is a mild tangent I want to go, but I think you'll agree that it's a valid point. So many bad training strategies are based upon this flawed idea that a dog is acting out and acting excited and disobedient simply because they're trying to control you or they're trying to be dominant. So that's why they're just acting incredibly hyper and aggressive because they're like, hey, I'm gonna control this. You do what I say, right? The problem is when you try and build a strategy on top of bad hypotheses, you're just going to get incomplete results at best. So it's extremely important to really understand why a dog behaves this way. Dogs are intelligent, curious animals. Fundamentally, this is what has really deteriorated the dog training industry as a whole, because people think they should use this heavy-handed approach and throw a choke chain or a prong collar or a shock collar on a dog to get control of them, really show them that you're in charge. And this is so unfortunate because remember, dogs like this, you said you had a lab, and labs specifically were bred for hundreds of years to have incredible stamina and endurance. So I would say that for those of you out there dealing with a hyper dog who's disobedient when you leave the house, to really keep this in mind. Which brings me to my next very important point. It's not even reasonable to expect a full-on high-energy dog to listen to you and to absorb new concepts unless you've exercised them just before a training session or just before teaching them a new concept. That's critical. You have to get the overflowing energy out before you can expect new stuff to get in. But if you do that, you can expect them to absorb these concepts at a much more rapid rate. Train in a huge variety of different places too. Ultimately, we want to work with our dogs in almost any situation we can imagine that they're going to be put in before we put them into that situation. So for some of you, that might mean walking your dog by the local elementary school during off hours so that you can work with them on their basic training. For those of you that have a dog that isn't that good at the park, or maybe they're good at the park until someone comes up, work with them while a baseball game is going on in the distance and really get them solid before getting closer to those things. Protocol when your dog is not listening to you in public is to create distance between them and the thing that's distracting them. If even that doesn't work, that just simply means that you haven't done the appropriate training yet, and you need to work up to that. It may even mean starting a training session right at the threshold of your front door. For many dogs, they'll listen just fine at the front door, but the second you go outside is when they start acting like they're on another planet or something. The good news is once you start to get traction, progress starts to come a lot faster as long as you keep a patient, understanding, non-frustrated attitude. Frustration will kill any progress that you might have a chance at achieving. Now, sometimes you want to take your dog to a place that they're not really prepared to listen to you in, but you still want to take them there. Maybe it's a local festival. We have a lot of those here in New Orleans. So that's something you could do, but you also want to keep your expectations realistic. Be prepared to be tolerant of a dog pulling on the leash, for example, if they're very excited, until you can work with them a little bit more. You don't train a dog from A to Z. This is the problem with a lot of traditional dog training advice, is that they tell you to put a collar around your dog's neck designed to create discomfort so that you can just jerk on it every time they do something you don't like. And the idea is that your dog learns to avoid pain, and that's how you get there. But the problem with that strategy is it doesn't work without the tools on, and you become reliant on these tools, and worse yet, you're compromising the bond with your dog in every single training session when that's exactly the opposite thing you should be doing. Using tools like this does nothing to promote a bond between a person and a dog, and if you hear nothing else in this video, that's what I want most of you to really understand about traditional dog training that tells you to interact with your dog in this unfortunate way. This question comes from Heather. Heather says, how do I get my dog to see me as a pack leader so he'll quit being so protective and pulling on the leash outside? Well, I did just address a big reason that dogs pull on the leash. To be clear about it, dogs walk faster than we do. That is the main reason they pull on a leash. Couple that with putting them in an exciting environment like the outdoors. That's really all it takes. And then you've got an excited dog that walks faster than you do. So you're gonna see that amplified, of course. So first, let's understand what's going on before we talk about any training strategy or anything about being a pack leader. The term pack leader is just kind of a generic term that's been used in dog training for one reason or another, and it means different things to different people. Being a pack leader to a dog trainer usually means catering to the ancestral wolf qualities of the domestic dog. So the idea goes that dogs came from wolves. Let's see what wolves do in the wild. Let's teach our dogs like that. And it gets really, really messy because number one, the way wolves behave in the wild is not in the way that many dog trainers think they do. They haven't updated their knowledge of science yet to really understand that that's kind of a flawed thing. But that's another video, and I've actually made videos on this before, and you can go back and check out the dominance myth if you want to understand that. I'll have it in the description. We didn't selectively breed dogs to be more like wolves. Quite the opposite. We actually selectively bred the dogs that were really good at doing their jobs or otherwise interacting with a human being. That's a critical point, and that point alone debunks a lot of traditional dog training because, again, like we were talking about before, when you build a strategy on top of a bad hypothesis, you're going to get pretty mediocre results, or you're going to be dependent on a very simplistic way of thinking about dog training, and one that usually does not promote a bond between a person and a dog. Fortunately, most of you out there, I think, agree with this point. What it is to show a dog that you're a good leader and a good parent to them is to lead by example, to focus on what they're doing right, and to really go out of your way to encourage them to do things you want rather than going out of your way to correct them for things you don't want. It's not to say you don't correct, but with management of the environment and not letting them have access to everything in the world, you're able to get a handle on things and really focus on the positive rather than the negative. And once you get a bunch of those successes in a row, you get a snowball effect, and bam, you've got a dog that's listening to you no matter what. My advice to you, Heather, is to really focus on the relationship with your dog, focus on what your dog is doing right as much as possible rather than focusing on what they're doing wrong. Fetch is the best way to exercise most dogs, in my opinion, because it's very efficient. A dog can really get satisfied in just a few minutes with that. Whereas if you're relying on walks to exercise your dog, you usually need about 1 to 2 hours with a really high energy dog for them to start to feel a little bit complete. And that can be unrealistic for a lot of people. If they'll play tug of war, you will most certainly have a fetch dog on your hands. You just need to teach them the rest of the rules over the next 8 weeks or so. I'll have a link in the description that will show you how to teach your dog to play fetch. This question comes from Ivana. We have a 10-month-old dachshund. She knows she has to go outside, yet she has accidents in the apartment. Only on the carpet though, or on the elevator. We live on the 14th floor and elevators take a long time. So we've been trying to train her to go outside on potty pads, turf, and paper, but we have not been successful. We even put her in her exercise pen with pads and she just won't go. When we give her the potty command and point to the pads or turf, she just ignores us. Please help. Now that's a good question. It seems that dogs tend to favor different textures when they're doing their business. So our goal is to get dogs to favor grass, but you've hit the nail on the head here. Your dog prefers the texture of carpet. You say that your dog won't go while in the exercise pen. An exercise pen is one of those like metal gated areas that's kind of in a circle that you can put in your kitchen or something like that, so that your dog has a little bit more room than a standard crate. Here's the thing though, dogs kind of generalize small areas as their living space, and most dogs don't like to do their business in their living space. There are challenges. I've been in your shoes before and I understand the problem. Since you know the location that your dog wants to do their business in, take the puppy pads, put them over there where the carpet is, and I want you to think in your mind, this is where you're going to encourage your dog to go. Now, it's not reasonable to just expect them to go. You have to show them, which means you need to take a step back on your training. Taking a step back on training is a standard part of my training program. So we routinely have to do this when something isn't working. You have to just forget it, take a step back and start over. And that's what I want you to do. Put a leash on your dog. Your dog should not have free run of the house. If you can't supervise your dog constantly, then have her in the exercise pen or have her in a crate or an otherwise puppy-proofed area in the house. Now, your dog can walk around with the leash hanging from them. Just make sure that you can get to them if you see that, you know what, I think she's thinking about doing her business. But I want you to walk her to the puppy pads as though you're going on a walk. Encourage her to go. Of course, reward her heavily when she does go. Now, it'll be slow going at first based on what you've said. It may make sense for you to consider having your dog go potty in the house on the pads as a more permanent strategy, since it's fairly impractical to take her out every 30 to 40 minutes, which is kind of what you want to do with a puppy, or at least every hour or two if they're a little bit older. This question comes from KJ. KJ says, how about training kids and pups? For example, I've got a 13-week-old puppy that keeps biting kids' shorts. Seems both the kids and the pup need to be trained, but what's the best way? You actually need to take the major step here of putting a leash on your dog for the next 6 to 12 months, because that's really what we should do when we're teaching a dog how to exist within our house. We have to make sure we have control of them. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily holding the leash, though having it tied to you is a good idea. But if you do want to give your dog a little bit more freedom, you can let them run around with a leash hanging from them. But that allows you to much more easily get control of your dog, escort him away, put him into a sit, work with him, and follow all of the other advice that I give you guys in my puppy biting videos. I'll have that playlist in the description for those of you who really just need to kind of go in order. Don't you guys see that by having your dogs on leash, especially when you have young kids in the household, that it's much better to keep those habits of jumping and biting on kids from emerging in the first place? The puppy biting stage is a temporary stage. It does need to be addressed. It doesn't go away automatically, but it can be a lot easier when you prevent constant instances of unwanted behavior from occurring, because the more time a dog performs a certain behavior, this goes both ways, the more likely they are to perform that behavior in the future. So if you can be trying to get lots of successes and be proactive and redirect your dog's attention on you and give them into a basic sit and look at me, for example, then you're on the right track and you're creating the kind of habits that you really want your dog to have. You know, we're going to be increasing our budget on these videos in the coming months here because of our success on Patreon. Quite frankly, you guys have been amazing on Patreon. Those really add up and allow us to get the equipment we need and hire the staff that we need to really make these fully featured videos that we make, in a lot of these Q&A videos like this, for example. It's a good way to show your support for the dog training revolution, pay it forward, so people who don't even have a dog yet will learn how to teach their dogs in the future. Just think of it as a tip. I very much appreciate it. Click thumbs up, leave a comment, tell me what you thought of the video below. We covered a lot of interesting information today. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch the video, and we'll see you next time. Bye.